Yo, what is up everybody? It is your boy Zeddy here, back at it again with another video. This being, what if Deku was Yoriichi's reincarnation? This is going to be the movie, meaning that this is going to be all of the series completed. There will be no more parts of this, and this is basically all you guys are going to be getting in terms of content for this. That being said, in case you haven't watched my What If Deku Was Inosuke's reincarnation, or What If Deku Learned the Thunder Breath, definitely watch those, seeing as they are bangers. My favorite out of the two would definitely be Thunder Breath, but you know, you guys can pick and choose. That being said, this thumbnail was made by the man, the legend, the myth, Dank God himself, and you know, make sure you guys go subscribe to the group channel, the Akatsuki, Miro, Gex, Izukage, and Phoenix Sanin are on there. But with that being said, I have wasted your guys' time far too long, so we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so where we start our story off is when Deku was born. In this version of events, Deku is going to be looking exactly like Yoriichi. Now, instead of looking like Deku himself, where he has the green hair and all that stuff, Deku is going to be born with a quirk mutation, meaning that Deku is literally going to look like Yoriichi himself, just because, you know, he's his reincarnation. And look at the man is saucy, bro. Look at this man. Like, birthmark or not, the man is saucy, and that cannot be denied, like, whatsoever. But that being said, Deku, meaning that he, you know, looks like him, means that he does inherit the birthmark, meaning that he inherits the power of the breath of the sun technique. That being said, Deku is basically going to be inheriting a lot from Yoriichi himself. This might as well be called What If Yoriichi Was in My Hero Academia. However, that won't get that many views, so I'm doing this instead. Anyways, that being said, Deku's going to grow up as a pretty quiet kid in this version. See, he's not going to be like his normal self, where he's like kind of like outgoing and timid, and he hangs out with Bakugo. No, in this version of events, Inko and Mitsuki are still going to be friends, yes, but Deku and Bakugo are not going to have the same dynamic that they have in the original canon. In this version, Deku is still going to want to become a hero. However, he will actually have a change of heart one day once Bakugo activates his quirk. See, as soon as Bakugo activated his quirk, he started to change, started to act more cocky. He started to think that he was better than everybody. And this is when Deku would realize that people with powerful quirks are bound to become heroes. And due to them having a lot of power, they get cocky and they just become bad people. I mean, look at Endeavor. Deku ended up meeting Endeavor one day, and when he saw the look in Endeavor's eyes, Deku just was scared. It's strange. All these heroes with powerful quirks are all the same. I mean, Bakugo and Endeavor are a little bit of the same person, kind of, to Deku, because at this point he's a little bit on the younger side. Therefore, Deku, since he's not a full Yoriichi, he doesn't have the same thinking pattern. This basically leads to Deku completely abandoning the notion of becoming a hero. And Deku would, instead of trying to become a hero like all the other kids, he would just kind of throw that to the side. And instead of being crazy like all the other kids were like, I'm gonna become a hero, Deku's a lot different. This leads to Deku going to the quirk doctor, where he is told that he has a quirk that basically allows him to see things that are not normally seen through their eyes. They would call it the see-through world. And in case some of you guys don't know what the see-through world is for Demon Slayer, or, you know, like Kameto no Yaiba, then you can basically just look it up. Look up what the see-through world means. Essentially what it is, if you guys don't want to do that, is pretty much kind of like an X-ray. See, Deku can see the world in an X-ray format, where he can see people's blood flow, their skeletons, their weak points, and all that stuff. Deku has a sort of granola eye, if you guys have watched the Dragon Ball Super manga. That being said, Deku would grow up with Inko just like a normal kid, and Deku would basically have a pretty normal life until he's about the age of 6 years old. However, things will basically start to change one day when Deku's home with his mother watching a movie. They'd be watching a movie about an old swordsman, a very legendary one at that, who was basically trying to recapture his loved ones, right? And this basically leads to Deku seeing swordsmanship and just falling in love with it. Deku, after that movie would end, would ask Inko if, you know, she was willing to get him a sword. She would say of course, she'd say yes, and she would basically go over to the store. She'd pull up to her local Walmart and cop the boy his very first lightsaber. I don't know if it's just me, but when I was growing up and I bought my first lightsaber, Ooh, it was a feeling. But that being said, she would buy him his first lightsaber, and this would basically lead to Deku just training with it every now and then, right? He would start messing around with it, and this is when Inko would kind of just see it as a little kid, just with his first little phase. Because, you know, when we're all kids, we all like things, but then we kind of just throw it around, you know, where like we'll like a certain toy, but then out of nowhere, we'll just like completely forget about it. That's pretty much what Sheath believes is going to happen to him. However, Deku would spend the next year loving the art of being a swordsman. So this is when Inko, being the great mother that she is, would decide that maybe she should take him to an actual place where he can really learn this. I mean, Deku having a quirk that allows him to see things not unseeable to the normal eye, that might actually help him. So Deku would actually be taking to a great swordsman in Japan who believes in one philosophy, and that philosophy is that the way of the sword shall only be used for defense and protecting what is special, what you love. Deku would actually love this point of view. Deku in this version of events is still a timid kid who has a heroic heart deep inside of him. Even though he does not want to become a pro hero, Deku still loves protecting things, and he has a very calm nature to him. This would basically lead to Inko enjoying the philosophy of this man, and she would actually allow Deku to go under the tutelage of this master for 3 years. This would lead to Deku, since he is 6 at this point, and he spent basically 1 year just kind of messing around with the sword. This would basically lead to Deku being 10. He'd be 10 years old by the time that he basically returns home after learning these sword styles. He would have spent, as I said already, 3 years under the tutelage of a master to learn modern swordsman techniques as well as old styles. This basically leads to Deku, during the time that he is there, finally developing his breath style. And for the first time that they had ever trained, when the master finally told Deku that he was going to try to attack him with the intention of harming, Deku completely obliterated him. I don't know if you guys have seen Plot Armor's video on Yoriichi's past, or Yoriichi Explained, but this man was literally able to defeat a swordsman like with relative ease, actually, in the blitz of an eye. Like, this man literally cut him on his legs, arms, like throat. This man is a beast. Yoriichi is a monster, and I mean, if he's able to defeat Muzan, yeah, it's kind of it's unfair pretty much. And Deku would be extremely gifted from rip, like off rip. Deku, not only has it been not even the first time he's picked up a sword, but I mean, technically he was training with a little lightsaber, but still, I mean, he viewed it as a sword and respected it in that way. He tried different things, even though the handle was different. He always tried to mimic different movements. This basically led to Deku developing different breath styles, to which he actually ended up teaching the master the breath of the sun. However, one very sad thing would come from this. The master, due to being of old age, would actually end up dying when he finally ended up mastering it, due to the fact that the birthmark that Deku was born with is power itself. You trade your life force for power, and due to the fact that the man was already very old, well, with that power was too great for his body to handle. This basically leads to Deku going back to Japan, or to the area where he used to live at, and he would go back, and a lot of people would view him as a new kid. Deku was honestly forgotten by a lot of his classmates. However, some of them who remembered that distinct birthmark would all be like, "Oh look, it's Deku!" And Bakugo, after hearing that name, would say, "Huh? I thought he left." I don't know if I'm imitating Bakugo's voice right, but like, Bakugo has like a very raspy, like weird voice, and like him as a kid, I don't know how to nail that thing. But anyways, that being said, Deku would basically spend the next 12 not 12, but the next couple of years basically just being that quiet kid. When Deku would have returned to Inko, she would have been ecstatic. I mean, she just saw her son after 3 years of him going off to train, and she would ask Deku if he got very powerful. Deku would say that he did, however, that the master has sadly passed away about 1 week before the time that it took him to return. And she would be very saddened and disheartened by that. However, she would be happy about the fact that, you know, he's now resting in peace. Deku would say that that's for sure, and Deku would know the real reason as to why he passed. At this point, Deku is not oblivious. This would basically lead to Deku returning to Japan. You know, obviously it's 10 years old, and he would basically spend the next 2 years just being the little quiet kid. Deku for the next 2 years would kind of just spend a lot of time with his mother, and this would basically is just going to lead us to him developing and mastering multiple other techniques and breath styles. This is when he would finally develop the breath of the wind, the breath of wind, the breath of stone, the breath of fire, the dance of the fire god, like, you know, all those weird different breaths, the thunder breath, right? He would basically end up developing all of those other styles, which are way less taxing on the body. That being said, Deku would basically kind of just be a little bit of an outcasted kid, but due to the fact that he did have a quirk, Deku's life was never half as miserable as the one that the original Deku counterpart had in the original canon. That being said, this basically leads us to the day of the sludge villain, where a lot of things are basically from here on out going to have a giant change in the story. This story is, I'm not going to lie to you guys, going to be a very, very fast-paced story from here on. So I hope you guys are ready. Go get your popcorn, your snacks, and in case you guys are doing some, you know, some things around the house, because that's usually what I do whenever I listen to What Ifs. You know, you boy usually mopping, sweeping, you know, cleaning the kitchen, a little some, maybe doing the dishes. If you are, leave a like just because, you know, I guessed it. And that being said, let's go back to the story. Okay, so the day the sludge villain would arrive, and Deku would be in the front of the class, just kind of paying attention to, you know, what he was writing down in his book. This is when Bakugo would walk inside. He'd go back to the back of the class, and the teacher would finally walk inside. Everybody would be very loud and obnoxious, and this is when the teacher would basically tell them all to be quiet, to settle down. He would then begin to explain to all of them that, you know, they need to start thinking about their futures, and we would have a very similar scene to what happened in canon. However, the teacher would never end up saying that Deku was going to go to UA. As I had already stated, Deku lost that aspiration to try to become a hero due to Bakugo's weird nature, and due to the way that he's seen at firsthand what hero society has done to the normal public. Deku just doesn't agree with that, and therefore he doesn't want to be a part of this. So this is basically going to lead to Deku essentially just, you know, having the normal day of the sludge stuff. And Deku would take the normal path that he took in the original, where he would go under the tunnel. However, when Deku is about to get attacked by the sludge villain, Deku knew it was going to come. Deku could sense it. He could feel it through the see-through world. And immediately, as soon as the sludge villain would come over to Deku, Deku would literally swing. Like, he would literally, like, swing out his sword. And he wouldn't be carrying some metal sword or anything like that. He would literally... Actually, no, he wouldn't even swing out a sword, because I'm pretty sure the man would get expelled if he just brought a sword to school every day. So I'm going to... Oh, I messed up my mic. Let's see. Hopefully it didn't mess up too bad. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm going to fix the way I'm sitting down, because this story is not going to be the greatest if I'm just all over here laying down. Okay, this is probably a little better. Okay, so this basically leads to, well, the sludge villain attacking. However, as soon as Deku could sense that aura, Deku would see a stick nearby, as it's immediately when Deku grabs it, and as the sludge villain lunges at Deku saying, "Give me your body, kid," Deku would immediately slice at the air with a stance that is perfect. Zero openings, zero flaws. The sludge villain would immediately disperse all over the walls, and it would just be wondering what happened. Its eyes would lock onto Deku, and it would all clump up again as it would say, "Kid, I don't have time to play these games. Give me your body," as he would lunge at Deku once more. However, this time, Deku would take a very strange stance as he would spin in a circle, similar to the Neji's Gentle Fist style. He would just cut at every direction. It would be omnidirectional protection, and the sludge villain would literally be splattered all over the place. It's at this moment that All Might would bust out through the tunnel and basically say that he is here, as immediately All Might would realize what happened, and he would be extremely impressed by Deku. This is when Deku would basically look at All Might's direction, and due to the fact that he's still seeing through the see-through world, he would see All Might's injury. As soon as All Might walks up to him and basically pats him on the shoulder, Deku would look at All Might and ask him how he got that scar. All Might would immediately ask him what scar he's talking about, and Deku would immediately tap him on his body with the stick that he had on hand. All Might would try to make up some sort of lie, but realizing that he doesn't know what this kid has, like how he's able to see that, he knows that he won't be able to lie. So he would begin to explain to Deku how a couple of years back he fought against a villain and he wasn't strong enough to defeat him all the way. So He ended up getting this injury. Deku would ask if it was in the fight against Chainsaw Man, and All Might would say that he seems to have a pretty good knowledge for this type of stuff, but no, it wasn't. Deku would say, oh, alright, so when did it happen? All Might would finally basically begin to explain to Deku the fight, and he would basically tell him that he just wasn't strong enough. He should have defeated him, however, he just wasn't able to. And Deku would look towards All Might. He would then look at the sky and say he understands. Maybe your resolve wasn't strong enough. All Might would look towards Deku's direction and tell him what does he mean. And this is when Deku would basically proceed to ask All Might about who the villain is that exactly did this to him. All Might would immediately wonder why this kid wants to know, and it's at that split second that All Might's time limit, it would run out. All Might would immediately revert back to his Small Might form, and this is when All Might would finally just kind of sigh as he would say, alright kid, hope I didn't have to say any of this stuff, but he would then finally begin to explain what One for All is, what All for One did to, what All for One basically did to him, and Deku would understand what's going on. This is when he would basically tell All Might that he hopes he can take him down someday, and All Might is just like, wait kid, what do you mean you're not gonna like ask anything else? Deku would turn around and just say that he is not gonna ask anything, and All Might would ask Deku if he's planning to become a pro hero. Maybe he can be the one who takes him down someday. Deku would turn towards All Might, give him a bright smile, and then say he doesn't want any fame or money. He would say that Hero Society isn't for him, and All Might would then give Deku a very confused look. He would say that he could save lives potentially. Does that not interest him? Deku would look at him as he would say that, yeah, that's a great thing to do. However, there's already thousands of heroes out there, and I mean, I doubt that one more hero will make that big of a difference. All Might would basically look at Deku and just be like, wait, kid, as he would then tell him why doesn't he defeat All for One, as Deku would stand there. He would not turn around, but Deku would listen to All Might, as he would then begin to explain to Deku that he can feel limitless potential coming off of him. With just the breeze that's going by his face, he can feel the power emanating off of Deku. And he would ask Deku why doesn't he become the person to stop him. Deku would look at All Might's direction, as he would say that that's not for him to do. I'm pretty sure that that's his job, isn't it, with that quirk of his? As All Might would kind of just have a breeze hit his face as he's like, this kid. And this is when All Might would explain to Deku that he wants to offer him the quirk. Deku would look at All Might as he would basically turn to his direction and say that he accepts. However, after he defeats that threat to the world, he's done. He's not going to pass down the quirk. The quirk will go down with him. And that is what Deku's offering All Might. So this one, All Might would look towards Deku's direction and basically accept Deku's conditions. And this would basically lead to Deku training with One for All and the breathing techniques. All Might would ask Deku what, the breathing style is that he uses, and Deku would kind of lie to All Might. For some reason, Deku just feels as if All Might's weakened body won't be able to handle the breathing styles, especially due to the fact that All Might's respiratory system is what's messed up. There's no way his weakened body will be able to handle it. If he ever tries to attempt to teach that to him, All Might will die. So this basically leads to the 10 months going by with Deku and All Might training. Deku during this time would not use any of One for All's extra quirks. He would definitely unlock a few due to the fact that Deku's body is extremely powerful. Yeah, Yoriichi wasn't exactly the most ripped human being in the world. However, I mean, it can't be denied that that man is an absolute mad lad. The man's ripped. Oh wait, no, not him, but Deku is ripped. Deku is absolutely ripped. I'm telling you, the man is, whoo. And due to the fact that he trained the way he does, Deku definitely has the body that is suitable for One for All. So off rip, he's basically able to use 45% of the power. And I mean, if that's not impressive, I don't know what is. But that being said, this one we're just going to skip on over to the day of the entrance exams. And so Deku basically wakes up on the day of the entrance exam, gets ready to take the exam, and he walks out the door telling his mother he's going to be off for a while. She would ask Deku where he's going, and Deku would look at her as he would say that he's going to take the entrance exams. She would say that, didn't he say he didn't want to become a pro hero? And Deku would say that he's fulfilling a promise to somebody that he made. And she would look towards Deku's direction. She would give him a smile and say, hey, I'll drive you there. She would get inside the car with Deku, and she would then begin to ask Deku what made him change his mind. Deku would say that there's something that must be handled before he can just live a peaceful life, and he won't be able to live with his conscience free of mind if he doesn't help out at least, or try. As she would understand what Deku means, she would then tell him that he better not be doing anything reckless, and that he's still her baby, so he needs to come back safe when everything's said and done. Deku would look at his mother's direction as he would smile, and he would then basically say that he will. As it's at this point that Inko would tell Deku good luck, and Deku would hug Inko. As he would then walk off, this is when Deku would proceed to basically start walking over to the direction of the door, as he would actually see that a young girl with brown hair, a brunette, this being Uraraka, would actually have been walking by, and this is when she would actually be the one who ends up tripping. This would lead to Deku catching her midair and saying, hey, you okay? She would look towards Deku's direction and see the birthmark and immediately say, whoa, that's an awesome tattoo. Deku would say, oh, this, and he would start chuckling as he would say, no, it's not a tattoo. Uraraka would look towards Deku's direction, and she would just feel so much kindness emanating from him. It's kind of similar to the feeling that the kid got when he was trying to destroy Tanjiro's core. She just feels so much just warmth coming off of Deku, and her words would just be lost. She would have no words to basically answer Deku. This would basically lead to Deku saying his goodbyes to her, and she would just be standing there just dumbstruck, like, whoa. As she basically would go inside, this would lead to Deku taking the exam and getting a very amazing grade. See, Deku wasn't just a quiet kid for no reason. He wasn't just sitting there not paying attention. Deku is incredibly talented when it comes to studying, and not the kind that I usually talk about, but you know, normal studying. And this basically leads to Deku going outside. This is when Deku would go outside, and here is where Deku would notice that the same girl he had actually met outside is standing right there. He would see her shaking and the nervousness just coming off of her. As he would go over to walk up to her, a boy with blue hair would stop him. This, of course, being Ida. This is when Deku would notice his presence, and he would immediately stop walking that way. As Ida would just notice that Deku stopped going that way just completely, and Deku would immediately just turn around and bolt to Uraraka. As Ida was turned around at that point, Deku would basically be by Uraraka, and by the time that Ida realized it, Deku was already over there talking to her. So Ida was just like, whatever, not my problem anyways. As Ida basically just stayed in his own lane, and Deku would go over to Uraraka. As this is basically where guys, I just gotta say something. In case my voice sounds a little bit different than it usually does, it's because your boy is tired. Oh, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm pretty tired. But you know, I can't wait to do this what if. And like, even though it doesn't sound like I'm hyped to do this, dude, I am livid when it comes to doing this series. It's so dope. Like, I just finished watching some stuff on Yoriichi, and dude, like, the man is a god. But anyways, that being said, yeah, this is basically, I also have like a little bit of a stuffy nose in case you guys can tell, but it's just a little bit there. Hopefully it's not as bad. But yeah, this is when Deku would basically proceed to, you know, get all of his stuff, and he would look towards Uraraka's direction. As he would tap her shoulder, she would turn towards his direction looking very shaken up, and Deku would tell her not to worry. He would basically tell her to breathe in and out and just not doubt herself. There's no point in doubting and thinking what would happen if I failed, because I mean, there's only one chance you're going to get, and you better try your hardest, because at the end of the day, if you tried your hardest, there's not going to be any shame in losing. As Uraraka would look towards Deku's direction, she would say, right. and she would then turn towards Deku, but Deku would be in there no more. And Deku would actually be literally right behind the door. Deku had pretty much body flickered, and this is when Deku would basically be rushing out his first ever robot. This is when Deku would basically unsheath his sword, and he would start running straight at a bunch of robots, just completely decimating them. He would use many techniques to just obliterate them, and Deku at one point would say, "Thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap and flash," as he would blitz and just decimate hundreds of robots within an instant. And Deku would then say, "Dance of the fire god." He would then basically proceed to just start just obliterating and just using each and every single breath style that you guys can think of. Deku would just go ham. Like, the man's going crazy. One breathing style that he does not have, however, is Inosuke's, what's it called? His beast's breathing. Yeah, he doesn't have beast breathing just because, you know, he never developed that one himself. That was Inosuke. So Deku doesn't have access to a couple of the newer ones, like the ones that Deku just won't develop just because, you know, he has no need. But yeah, basically he does that stuff. And this is basically when we're going to be leading to Deku basically obliterating about 700 robots. Deku would have annihilated each and every single one in the area. And this is when Nezu would press the button which actually releases the zero pointer. This would lead to Deku being extremely shocked as soon as he sees the presence that is before him. A gigantic robot. And at this point, people had not even walked in through the gate because President Mike had not even said anything about go, go, go. Like, you know, you gotta wait for the countdown. Like, he didn't even notice Deku went in there, and by the time that he did, the zero pointer was already on the field. So this is when Deku would stare it down, and in an instant Deku would use the breath of the sun, also combining it with One for All's 45% full cowling, and decimate it. Like, it's not fair how powerful this man is now. Like, Yoriichi by himself could have, like, destroyed the robot, the zero pointer. Like, I have no doubts. But, like, if you're adding 45% full cowling onto the already insane boost of the breath of the sun, you have a god. And that is what Deku literally just did. He just obliterates the robot. And after this, he would sheath his sword, as he actually got access to be able to use it during the little exam, due to the fact that his quirk isn't a combat-based one, so they allowed him. This being said, this is when Deku would leave the area, and this means that no Uraraka with her getting caught would have happened, leading to Deku basically going home, walking home, and this is when Deku would just kind of wait a couple of days until he finally arrives and gets his acceptance letter. All Might reviewing the footage of what Deku did to those robots would just think that this is no surprise, and honestly, he probably could have done even more. But Deku was honestly just not trying to exert that much energy. So, you know, he did the bare minimum. And in case you guys are wondering, wait, Zether? Like, what do you mean bare minimum? Yeah, you heard me right. Bare minimum. That being said, this basically leads to Deku meeting All Might on the Dagoma Beach the day that All Might calls him. And they would have a normal talk where All Might just tells Deku that for the next 3 years, life is going to be a little harder for him. As Deku would say that he's ready for it, that anything he has to do to defeat this man all for one, he'll do it. All Might would smile towards Deku's direction and then say that they need to get ready. As it's at this point that they would both basically just go home. Deku would get a good night's rest, and the very next day Deku would have his first ever day of UA. As Deku would arrive to the place after getting dropped off by his mother, he would immediately just sit in the back of the classroom because that was basically the only seats that were open. He would notice Bakugo inside there, and as soon as Deku would walk inside the classroom, Bakugo immediately started berating Deku, just tossing insult after insult at his direction. But Deku just proceeded to ignore Bakugo due to the fact that, you know, if you fuel Bakugo's little tantrums, you're not going to exactly get the best results. So Deku just chose to basically ignore Bakugo, and honestly, that's the best thing he could have done. This would essentially lead to Deku and sitting back in the classroom until Bakugo just gets tired of just telling Deku this stuff. He would blast an explosion at Deku, but Deku would move his arm so fast that the explosion would do nothing. I don't know if you guys have ever like played with a little bit of a lighter, But do you guys know the effect where you turn it on and if you like swipe your fingers fast enough, the fire just goes completely out? That's basically what Deku had done. Pretty much what he did to Todoroki. Yeah, I could have just said that. I forgot about that situation. But yeah, he basically did that to Bakugo's explosions. And this basically led to Deku, what's it called? This basically led to Deku just sitting there until Uraraka finally arrived. She was going to go over and basically talk to Deku, but this is when Aizawa would sit up and just tell them all that they need to be quiet if they want to be in this class. Aizawa would then begin to explain that they need to put these on, with Uraraka doing her little, "What about orientation?" And Aizawa would just be like, "Yeah, we're not doing any of that." This would basically lead to Deku and everybody else going into the changing rooms, and they would all get dressed. Mineta would still be a pervert, but Deku, not being, mean or like my usual Dekus, wouldn't curb stomp Mineta, and, Jiro would still end up doing Mineta dirty. That being said, this basically leads to all of them going outside, with Aizawa tossing the ball straight at Deku, and Bakugo just being so confused. He would have ended up saying that the number 1 place got the ball throw. And Bakugo, as soon as he says that, Bakugo was like, "Wait, sir, you just said that number 1 got first place. This kid, there's no way he got it. His quirk is the ability to see things we normally can't see. How is that powerful at all? There's no way that loser got first place." As Aizawa would look towards Bakugo, he would then say, "No, he got it. He got about 700 robot points." As soon as Bakugo hears that, his jaw drops, and he would rush at Deku as he would say, "How did you get so strong?" Deku would just stand there as Aizawa would catch Bakugo with a scarf, and he would tell him that one more of those outbursts, and he's done. This basically leads to Bakugo backing off of Deku, and this is when Deku would finally be able to be allowed to throw the ball. Deku would reel his arm back and use 45% of full cowling as he would throw the ball from there to Hosu City. That would get him an amazing score, and as soon as Bakugo sees that, he would get angry. Rage would start to fuel him, and he would then look towards Deku as he would give him a stare of just, "I'm gonna find out how you got this strong." This is when the rest of the exams would go, and Deku would just obliterate each and every single portion. This would basically lead to everybody just wondering what Deku's quirk is. Bakugo would then speak up, and he would say, "That loser has the quirk of seeing the see-through world. It has nothing to do with strength. Now look at me, Deku." He would walk over to Deku and just stare him down as he would say, "How did you get this strong?" This is when Deku would look at All Might and literally not even tell a lie. He would look at him and say, "All Might gave me this power." This is when Bakugo would say, start dying of laughter. He would immediately start combusting, and just Deku would look at him with a straight face. No laughter, no nothing. Bakugo would then be like, "You're serious?" And Deku would then look towards Bakugo's direction as he would nod. Bakugo would then say, "So, you think you can actually get a quirk? You must be delusional, Deku. I didn't think you were just crazy, but now you're just stupid." He would look towards Deku's direction as he would then walk away. And people in the class would just listen to Bakugo as they all just started laughing at Deku's remark. But Deku would just be like, whatever. As the day would end and Deku would then go home. This is when it's now finally going to lead us towards the situation of the heroes versus villains. I'm just basically going to time skip all the way over to that day, as I'm just going to be covering that. This is when it's finally going to this is when Deku would basically go to school, and they would have a very normal school day up until All Might arrives and basically says that he is here, ready to give them, their little heroes versus villains. I don't know, but he would just say something along those lines, right? What he said in canon. He would then tell them all to get suited up because the clothes make the pros, and Deku would then hear that and just be like, "It doesn't work like that, All Might." All Might would look towards Deku. He would pat him on the back and be like, "Hey, I'd appreciate it if you kept one for all a secret." Deku would look towards All Might's direction and say, "All Might, I'm going to literally be the last wielder. There is no worry that should be in your heart." As All Might just like, okay. Deku would then look towards All Might as he would pat him on the back and he would walk off with a smile. He would then put on his outfit, and Deku's outfit, you already knew what Deku's hero costume was going to be. Deku is dripped out in Yoriichi's robe. Komodo, I think is what it's called right there. Komodo? Yeah, he's dressed in one of those. And the reason that he has one of those is because, you know, he trained with the swordsman in Japan, and he basically had one of those. So a little bit of homage to him. That being said, this would lead to all of the teams being announced, and Deku would of course be on a team with Uraraka. Uraraka would be ecstatic at the fact that she gets to be on a team with this kid. Or no, not this kid, but she gets to be on a team with Deku. See, this version of Uraraka still has a sort of liking towards Deku, even if it wasn't him who saved her with the 0-pointer. Deku didn't, you know, do any of that because, you know, he wanted to, but, you know, that basically leads to Uraraka and Deku being on the same team. They would, of course, still end up fighting against Bakugo and Ida would actually kind of... He would have a dislike towards Deku if it wasn't for the fact that Deku is such a nice guy. After talking to him for a couple of days, he would have realized that Deku was so nice, and he would actually end up having a very liking mate. He would actually like Deku. That being said, Bakugo, on the other hand, we can't say the same for him. Bakugo literally hates Deku's guts, and that's going to be on full display for the Heroes vs. Villains event. That being said, this is when we're just going to get into it. As soon as this is all announced, Deku would look at Uraraka and tell her not to worry about the blondie. He's going to be handling him. He just needs her to find the bomb room. And he says that not because he can't find it, but he just wants to make her feel useful. You know, he doesn't want to make her feel as if Deku only got the win for them single-handedly. So Uraraka would basically do that. They would go off in different directions. And as soon as Deku would hear the screaming from Bakugo saying, "Deku!" he would immediately rush towards that direction in a Naruto run. As he would start rushing at Bakugo, immediately Bakugo would blast at Deku. However, Deku would cut through the air, releasing a wind pressure so powerful, which would send Bakugo crashing towards the wall. As Bakugo would then be like dropped, his head would like hit the wall hard, and he would then look up at Deku. He's like, "Get so strong." Deku would look at Bakugo's direction, and he would tell him that he doesn't need to worry about that. And this is when Deku would literally just be ready to put on the tape on Bakugo. But Bakugo would immediately, as soon as he feels that the tape is going on him, would literally take off the pin for his giant gauntlet. As the explosion would go through the entire room, this is when Deku, in a brief instant, would literally just grab Bakugo, throw him into the other room, meaning his body crashed through the wall. Deku would then run into that, and that explosion would have absolutely zero effect on them. This means that afterwards, Deku sees Bakugo of what Bakugo just did. Deku would immediately get like a little disappointed in him, and he would then karate chop Bakugo in the back of the head. This would lead to Bakugo falling into unconsciousness, and Deku would then go over there and meet Uraraka. He would tell her that she did a great job locating the room, and she would say, "Well, how'd you find this?" Deku would basically just say that it has to do with his quirk. She would say that she understands, and this is when Deku would say that she's going to be a distraction for Ida, and that he's going to go through the back. She would say, "The back?" Deku would basically just say that he's going to go in through the window. And this is when Uraraka would basically just say, wait, what? As Deku would literally just jump, like literally just break outside, and he would jump straight through the window, right in front of the bomb. As Uraraka would bust in there, Ida would have been giving his little villain monologue. "Ah, yes, I knew you would be coming, so I hid everything in the room." And right as that happens, Ida just heard, "Hero team wins." Ida just like his whole life flashed before his eyes after hearing that. Deku would have just basically just touched the bomb, and yeah, this basically leads to really not much else happening after that. The very next event that we basically have to cover after that is just Deku and Uraraka just kind of being told that they did great in this, and that Deku was the MVP after all. This would basically lead to Uraraka asking Deku if he has any plans later on, and Deku would say that he doesn't, as Uraraka would invite Deku to go get maybe something to eat. She'd be red in the face, and Deku would know exactly what she feels. Deku, not wanting to be mean, would just tell her that, yeah, sure, as they would end up going on a little bit of a pizza date, I guess you could say. They'd watch a movie, you know, they'd do stuff, and Deku would start opening up to Uraraka. Yes, guys, this is going to be an Uraraka ship, bro. Like, she's like the kindest person in class 1A, and Deku, just come on now, it's a perfect ship. That being said, they would basically both, you know, go on a little mini date, and this is when they would finally end off the day. However, when they are basically ending everything off, when Deku and Uraraka are walking to Uraraka's neighborhood, there would actually be a very dark alleyway, and it would be about nighttime. Deku at this point would basically be walking with Uraraka, and it's when they would start to hear a scream. Deku would basically tell Uraraka to follow him and run. As they would run at the scream, and this is when Deku and Uraraka would see a sight that they wish they had never seen. Deku would see one more of the horrors that this world offers, and it's immediately when Deku's eyes are just filled with rage as he would blitz at the man and like just cut off his head. Like he literally decapitates the man. The lady, after seeing that, her eyes would widen and she'd say, ah! She'd run away, and Deku would then look towards Uraraka, as Uraraka would literally not even be fazed by that. She would just say that he deserved that, and they would then end up going off to Uraraka's house. As the vibe was way different than what it was before, Uraraka would then basically go inside, and they would both kind of stay silent. For the next 2 days, nothing really much would happen with Deku and Uraraka, seeing as the atmosphere was a little weird. Or so Uraraka thought. You know, she didn't think that, you know, she was just going to be able to bounce back after seeing that. But, you know, Deku was just fine with it. She just thought that Deku would, you know, feel weird after Uraraka's weird reaction after that happened. You know, it was the first time that she ever saw somebody decapitate someone else. But, yeah. After that, that being said, Uraraka would finally talk to Deku. And Deku would tell her that, you know, he actually didn't think that anything was going on. He thought that he just did something wrong, but Uraraka would say that no, he didn't. And the air would get cleared up. Deku and Uraraka would hang out again, and this would basically lead to Deku essentially getting on the bus for the day of the USJ. This is when they would all basically make it there, and I'm pretty sure many of you guys can guess how this is going to go down. Will they? A. Will they basically get ambushed by Kurogiri and things won't change? B. Will Deku be able to see all of the villains in the see-through world? Or C. Will Deku say something but Aizawa will do absolutely nothing about it? Well, guys, if you guess number B, then you are correct. Ding, 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 ding. No, I'm seriously, though, Deku would basically be able to sense all the villains inside as soon as he gets like anywhere near the area, and he would immediately tell Aizawa of what's going on. Aizawa would immediately call for reinforcements, and a bunch of heroes would arrive. As they would crash inside the door, Kurogiri would have been expecting a bunch of students. He would have thought that they were a bit late than what the schedule had told them, and Shigaraki was a little, you know, angered, but the pros, yeah, they would destroy everything. Like, All Might would be there too, and All Might would still have the fight with the Nomu. This means Deku actually never got this chance to even fight against anybody, or so I would say if Deku wasn't the successor for One for All. When All Might was fighting against Nomu, All Might was basically struggling. So Deku, being the person that he is, he rushed in there regardless of what could happen to him, and he just blitzed at the Nomu using the Thunder Breath, Thunderclap and Flash, and decapitated the Nomu. He did it with the Nichirin sword, and I'm just gonna say that due to the fact that, you know, it kills demons which can regenerate, I'm just gonna say that it works on Nomus as well. So Deku decapitates the Nomu, and this would basically lead to All Might just giving Deku all the credit. After this, the USJ thing would basically have been handled by the pros, so this would never even go out to the media. Therefore, they wouldn't have a week break, and school would basically go by as it did in canon, meaning that the rest of the class don't go over to check out 1A, other than a couple people from class 1B. Monoma, Kendo, Shinso, they would arrive, and, you know, Bakugo would still call everybody extras, leading to them three being kind of irritated, and, you know, this would just lead to the day of the sports festival. This is when Midnight would basically tell Deku that he has to give a speech. And Deku, being the genuine person that he is, he gives the nicest speech ever, dude. He literally gives a speech that just makes people's hearts melt. And this would lead to Deku basically just this would lead to Deku sorry boys, I had a yawn, but anyways, this would lead to Deku getting in the starting lineup for the race, and this is when the race would all start. However, before the race even was even wait, I am stuttering so much, I can't talk today. What was I gonna say? But before the race basically starts, Midnight shoots the thing in the air. She basically tells him how to go, and right before Todoroki can even cover the floor with ice, Deku would immediately just say, "First form, Thunderclap and Flash," blitzing all the way to the finish line. By the way, might I add, he didn't even use full cowling whatsoever. That was nothing but the Thunder Breath style. Deku blitzed over there and just obliterated it. It might as well have been the teleporting move. The rest of the race would go as you guys would expect it to go in canon, and well, that basically wraps up the race events. That being said, this would lead us to get into the part where they all have to basically be cavalry. However, I am not going to lie to you guys. I literally hate this part of What If so much. The cavalry battle is so garbage, dude. I don't know how to make it interesting at all. Like I don't like covering it. Like it's so whack. I don't know. I don't know if it's just me. Comment down below if you guys like this part. But me personally, I don't really like the cavalry battle. That being said, I'm kind of just going to skim through it. I'm just going to say Deku wins, and his team is basically the same that he had in canon, because Ida still wants to be like his freaking rival or something like that. That being said, this will basically lead us towards the fight with Deku versus Shinso. However, as soon as Shinso gives off petty remarks towards Deku, Deku would drop his sword, and he would immediately know what Shinso's basically feeling inside. Deku can just feel Shinso's emotions. He can feel as if Shinso, as much as stuff as he's talking right now, Shinso's hurting. Deku would walk over to Shinso, katana in hand. He would sheath it, and he would walk towards Shinso with a smile, which would actually cause Shinso to be thrown off. Shinso would look at Deku with a weird stare, and he'd say, "What are you doing?" He would then look towards Deku, as Deku literally just walks over to Shinso slowly and gives him a hug. Shinso would just be like, and Deku would look at Shinso as he would say that he knows why he's like this, but his quirk is incredible too. And this would lead to Shinso basically having a gust of wind, shooting at his face. Kind of like in every anime scene where, they have a realization, and Shinso would just smile, as this is when Deku would basically tell Shinso that they're going to have a pretty clean match. Shinso would say right, and this is when they would both rush at each other and have a little bit of a hand-to-hand combat bout. Deku would obliterate Shinso just due to the fact that, this man actually knows how to fight, and Shinso he's a little bit of a street brawler. He has no real experience. So Deku would win, and this would lead to the second round with Todoroki versus, Deku. Now, as soon as everything basically starts, everything announced, Deku, basically grabbed the sword. Like, he grabbed that thing, and before midnight, it's like before Todoroki could even shoot any amounts of ice whatsoever towards Deku, Deku would immediately whisper under his breath, "Let me show you the difference between our power," as he would sheath the sword and just immediately say, "Water breathing, water breath." And he would just use, what technique is the one that Tanjiro uses that basically he can smell the line and he just cuts straight at it? He basically uses that one. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, my head is having a little bit of a brain fart right now, and I just forgot what it was called. But that's essentially what Deku would do, and he would blitz at Todoroki as he would slash Todoroki's chest. Todoroki would immediately fall down onto his knees, and Deku would be told that he is victorious. This leads us to the final battle, to which Deku, before it even happens, Bakugo would rush into the room and tell Deku that he's going to get obliterated. He embarrassed him the last time, but things are going to be different. This is when Deku would honestly pay no mind to Bakugo, since, he's not here to argue with Bakugo or to entertain him. So he's not really focused on him. And Bakugo would then grab Deku's arm as he starts squeezing it, but Deku would just continue to ignore him. And Bakugo would throw an explosion at Deku's face. That was pretty illegal. I'm pretty sure you can't do that to your, opponents during the UA Sports Festival. But Deku wouldn't say a thing about it because he ain't no chump. And this is when, Bakugo would walk out of the room. As it's at this point that Deku just kind of is a little irritated by this, but he just doesn't bother to do anything about it. I mean, they're going to have a match where they're going to be able to fight, and Deku can finally just teach him what it's like to be on the other side of the coin. And some of you guys may be wondering, what do you mean by being on the other side of the coin? Now, what I mean by that is basically that, not everybody knows what it's like to be on the bullied side of things. Not everybody knows what it's like to be on the popular side of things. Deku is going to show Bakugo exactly what it's like to be on the losing side of things, to feel as if you have no way of countering. And as soon as the battle started, before Bakugo had a chance to do a thing, Deku would activate 60% full Cowling. All of it that he can use at this current moment. Immediately a black substance would start emitting from Deku's direction, and an aura so powerful which made Bakugo's stomach just grumble. It would feel as if Deku was using Nen, you know, when like people, it would basically give Bakugo a feeling of when Killua and Gon were basically going up against Inosuke, and Inosuke, oh no, I said Inosuke? Oh my god, y'all are about to roast me. Hisoka basically emitted his Nen onto them. That's basically what Deku would do, and his aura would be just so powerful that Bakugo would literally just fall unconscious. He could not handle the aura. As soon as he would wake up, he would ask what happened, and he would be shown a replay of the match. Immediately, Bakugo's face would turn red, and he would say that kid, Deku, how could you be this powerful? He would just be wondering why Deku is this strong. Like, does he truly have All Might's power? He doesn't seem that way. He doesn't punch or anything. He just uses a sword. He shouldn't be this strong. Also, I probably forgot to mention, Deku is not even allowed to use a metal, like he's not even allowed to use the Nichirin sword. He's literally been using a wooden sword, but he's so good with it that it might as well be like the strongest metal in the world. Because if you guys don't remember, when Tanjiro was fighting against a kid with a wooden sword, that boy did some damage. That being said, Deku basically had that little situation happen to him, and yeah. Anyways, this is when we are going to finally go into into Deku getting the medal, right? He would get his medal and he would be told that he got first place. This is when we're just going to jump on over to when they are all being told that they need to pick their hero names as well as the agency that they're going to be going for their work study. This is when, you know, they would all basically end up picking their normal stuff, and Deku would pick the hero name Yoriichi. And, you know, he would pick he'd pick Yoriichi as his last name, because that's the nickname that his master used to call him. Because in that place, they were never referred to as their normal names. They always had something different, I guess. Now, with that being said, this is when Deku would finally pick who he is going to be going with. Deku would pick the hero Edgeshot. And due to the fact that in this version of events, I do not want Ida to die, I'm gonna throw Ida a bone. All right, I'm just gonna say that Edgeshot was going through Host of City, therefore Deku and, you know, himself basically went through there. And when the day of the Nomu incident basically happened, Deku and he were ready, bro. They were taking out Nomus left and right, and since Deku was wearing his hero costume, he was allowed to use his Nichirin sword. So he was obliterating Nomus. And on the path of taking one more down, he noticed Hero Killer Stain in an alleyway, leading to him saving our boy Ida. Come on now, this version Ida and Deku were kind of tight, so I feel like, you know, Ida should be saved. You know, I feel like it would be injustice if I just did Ida dirty in every single one of my what ifs. That being said, yeah, Ida gets saved, and this is now going to lead us to them all going back to class and basically taking the finals. Some of you guys are probably like, yo, Zether, dude, you didn't even cover the internship, bro. What are you doing? What are you doing? I am going to fight you, Zether. Go back and cover the internship. And to that I say, bro, like, I don't want to, bro. Nothing happens. Deku just, like, at all. Like, what is Edgeshot going to teach Deku? Nothing. And the Nomus weren't going to do anything to Deku anyway, so it's not like I should cover that. Stain, actually, the Stain fight might have been interesting. Let me go back and cover that. See, as soon as Deku noticed Stain, Deku would get into one of his stances, and Stain would literally lick the blade on his sword, causing Ida to get, you know, paralyzed. This is when Stain would then say, another sword user. Looks like you are gonna die tonight, hero. As he would blitz towards Deku's direction, Deku would sidestep him, and with one clean slash, like literally just going like Stain's head, it would just pop off, clean off. And Ida was seeing this, would just be like, no, it was supposed to be me. I should have done that. You know, he was all being angry. Deku would then grab Stain's like unmoving body as well as Native and take them to the hospital, where they would all just be told, and this is when it would just be chalked up to the hero killer Stain getting taken down by a Nomu. They would all just say that it was a Nomu that did that to him, right? Ida would say that that was the case due to the fact that he didn't want Deku to get in trouble, and this is when we're finally going to go to the race. The race, which is basically rescuing All Might, in case some of you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you know, and Deku would win. Deku would be able to rescue All Might in a thunderclap and flash. That being said, anyways, after that, this would basically lead us to them all being told about the finals. Oh, also, apologies for the little squeaky noises that you guys keep hearing. It's my chair. My chair keeps making weird noises, but you know, I doubt it even pops up in the audio due to the fact that my voice is probably way louder, plus the fact that I put background music. You guys probably won't hear anything, but you know, I can hear it, and I just feel like I'm just paranoid about that. But anyways, that being said, this would basically lead them all to being told about the finals, to which they would all study in Deku and Uraraka. Deku and Uraraka, you know, they'd get a little closer, and they'd actually start dating during this time, which is actually a very cool development that happens in this part. That being said, though, this is basically when we are going to finally get to sorry, you boy needed to do that. I am parched. Hold on, let me go get some water actually. All right, I'm back. Anyways, you guys are probably like, this man is so unprofessional, but anyways, boys, that being said, this is going to lead to the finals, and due to the fact that honestly this doesn't really change much up until the point with the battle against All Might, Deku and Bakugo are both still going to have to face him. However, with Bakugo and Deku having a different dynamic than they do in the original, and Bakugo actually still not wanting to listen to Deku, however being afraid of Deku's power, this basically leads to Bakugo not saying a word to Deku, rushing at All Might, getting taken down, and Deku wouldn't even have to fight All Might. Deku would literally just speed blitz past him all the way to the gate with Bakugo in hand, and they would both end up passing, which is going to lead them all to the forest stuff. However, nothing in the mall will happen, meaning that Shigaraki, all that Shigaraki stuff like that, that never ended up happening in this version due to the fact that, well, you know, Shigaraki isn't mad about Stain, since Stain didn't get the recognition, meaning Dabi, Toga, all those people, they never ended up joining. I said joining, but I meant joining, and this is basically going to just lead them all to going to the forest training. This one, they would all be thrown off the edge by Mandalay, and well, you know, just to chop it all up to you guys, honestly, nothing would really happen in the forest training arc. This part gets a little boring just due to the fact that many of the events that you guys would expect would kind of happen. Yoriichi Deku doesn't really cause too many changes. Deku is a little more like his counterpart at this point. However, he still is a little different just due to the impact of Yoriichi's personality. And yeah, this basically leads to a pretty boring situation. Deku still actually almost gets hit in the family jewels. However, Deku is more than fast enough to realize that Kota was, you know, moving his muscles to try to punch him. So in that split second, Deku just pushed Kota's hand to the side, and Kota got angry at that. He ran away from there, and that basically leads to Deku and everything else happening like in canon, up until the point where Muscular and all that stuff would happen. Now, it's at this point that Deku literally goes around decapitating all, I'm not playing, all of these villains. And when All For One realizes that all the villains that he basically sent out did not return, he goes to the forest and he tries to see what's going on. Muscular, Shigaraki didn't return, and that's because his head is on the ground. And this basically leads to yeah. Oh, in case you guys were wondering why Deku just was able to actually take them all out, it's because Deku has the access to the see-through world, meaning that Deku was able to see where all the villains gathered on the very first day. So as soon as he did that, he literally in the pitch of darkness just walked over there and like just caught them all off guard. He used the thunderclap and flash. Nah, I've been using that one way too much. He used the wind pillar's secret move. He used Tomoyoki's his 11th form, the one that he used to basically decapitate one of the other members, basically, is what he did, right? That's essentially what goes down. And well, that being said, this basically leads to boy, gotta clear his throat one more time. All for One teleporting there, a black substance would arise, as Deku would immediately know what this presence is. It's something awful. It feels dirty, foul. It feels dark. Muscular's presence was that of death, but this one here, it feels putrid, disgusting. And as soon as Deku would see All for One, he would know what he has to do. Immediately, before All for One gets a chance to even walk out the portal, Deku would immediately use the breath of the sun technique, decapitating All for One on sight. And after that, Deku would literally leave the forest. He would be gone. There'd be no traces of him, nothing else. As I said, Deku's goal wasn't exactly to become a pro hero. And Deku already stated very clearly at All Might that he was never there to become the #1 pro hero. One for all, that dies with him. And this is when Deku would just kind of get out of UA. He'd go back to just being a normal kid and go to college, as afterwards Uraraka would end up actually becoming a pro hero. And due to the fact that both of their little choices basically clash with each other, Uraraka wanted to become a hero and leave the lifestyle of being poor, but Deku just wanted a simple life, a life where he would have a beautiful family and just be able to live out the rest of his life in peace. Maybe teach his sons the teachings of the son of the breath of the sun. And that's what Deku does. Years later, Deku ends up finding a girl who thinks just like him. He marries her, and that is where What If Deku Was Yoriichi's reincarnation would end. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it was maybe 56 minutes long, maybe around like the 50-minute mark for this particular story. However, I do hope that you guys still enjoyed the story, due to the fact that, you know, I thought it was still pretty dope. I thought it was still pretty fire. But yeah, that being said, in case you guys haven't subscribed already, I would appreciate it if you guys subscribe to me. It would mean a lot if you guys help me reach 20K by the end of the summer. And with that being said, it has been your boy Zether, and I am out. Peace. I love each and every single one of you guys. I forgot to say that. Peace.